All right, so quickly we'll go through the final part 3 of what we covered today in class. And this has to do with taking what we already know about perimeter and area and we're putting it into one spot in our book of knowledge. And so my first shape, what I have is a square. And something that I know about my square is that all four sides are congruent. So if I have side length S, I know that all of my side lengths are S. And so for the name of this shape, this is the square. Formulas for my square, I know my area and I know my perimeter. Well, perimeter is just side plus side plus side plus side, or 4 times side. So that's 4S. Area of a square is just base times height. Well, my base is S, my height is S, and so it's just S times S, or I could say S squared. Now, there's no reason to remember that. If you just did base times height, that's perfectly fine. But if we wanted to be as concise as possible, we could say S squared. My next shape is going to be a rectangle. And what I know about my rectangle is that it is base and my height has to be perpendicular to my base. And I also know that my area formula for my rectangle is just base times height. Perimeter, however, on my rectangle, I could do base plus height plus base plus height. But if I just did my base plus my height, and I did it again, same thing as multiplying that base plus height times 2. Now, don't get worried, if you prefer to do it base plus height plus base plus height, or base plus height plus height, it's the same thing. Next polygon is going to be my parallelogram. Parallelogram, same as my rectangle, has a base and a height. Difference is my height is not this slanty thing. My height is straight up and down. So we talked about when you go to the doctor says to stand up nice and tall, straight up. That way he can take an accurate measure of your height, or she, if it's, whatever your doctor may be. So my area is simply base times height. So it's no different. Next shape is going to be my triangle. Triangle also has a base, also has a height. Now my height is not the slanty things, but my height is that perpendicular line straight up from my base. Area of a triangle, because we said that any triangle is half of a parallelogram, meaning I could take this triangle, I could duplicate it and flip it upside down or rotate it around, and this triangle now forms a parallelogram. Parallelogram is area equals base times height, so my triangle is half of that, half of a parallelogram, so it's half base times height. And then my perimeter for a triangle is simply side 1 plus side 2 plus side 3. Now if I had an isosceles or an equilateral triangle, I could combine some of those sides using multiplication, but I'm not going to worry too much about that since I feel confident that you guys can do really well with perimeter. My final polygon is going to be my trapezoid. And my trapezoid, I have a base and I also have a height. Again, my height is not the slanty things. When you go to the doctor, they tell you to stand up straight and tall. So my height is perpendicular to my bases. Now remember, your trapezoid, you have 2 bases. I have a base there and I have a base here. And it doesn't really make a difference which one you call base 1 and base 2. I just know that the parallel sides in any trapezoid, the parallel sides are my bases. Area formula, we based it off of our triangle formula. So it's just 1/2 my base times my height. But because I have my base broken up into 2 pieces, I need to make sure that I get both. So base piece 1 plus base piece 2 together multiplied by my height. And so trapezoid, I get it, the formula for the area looks a little intimidating, but it's really not. If I just know that it's the same thing as my triangle formula, and just 1/2 of my two bases added together times my height. And that's everything that we covered today. If you have any questions, please ask me in class.